These are 3 episodes of Futurama that get super freaky. Starting with the time Leela's jealousy takes a crazy twist as she tries to expose Zap's true colors. So after Leela's mother, Munda, divorces her longtime husband Morris over a tension-filled argument, they travel to a space bar for a girls' night out where there's gambling for scraps, holographic dancers, and couples sucking each other's insides. You know, just a typical bar. As they're chilling in a booth, Munda spots Zap sitting on the opposite side of the room.
I wonder what Captain Brannigan's doing with those cockerons.
Conversing over a peace agreement, Zap tries to impress the cockerons by speaking in their own language instead of using a translator, but unfortunately says something a little different.
I'd like to spank your sister with a slice of bologna.
Oops.
The aliens target Zap and Kif after the miscommunication, but just then, Munda walks over speaking alienese, resolving the heated argument. Zap is so impressed with Munda that he invites her to have a drink with him.
I insist you stay for a courtesy thank you drink.
Things take a wild turn for the crew as they find Zap and Munda twisting tongues with each other at the bar.
Woo! Nasty.
Munda heads back home to Leela after saying goodbye to Zap with a kiss, before teleporting to the apartment. Leela tells her mother that she and Zap hooked up a couple times before, but to her surprise, Munda already knew. First divorcing her husband to smashing Zap, knowing her daughter already has, is something I never thought would happen in Futurama. But after watching all the episodes I talk about later in the video, I really shouldn't be surprised. She then tells Leela that she understands her anger.
You're jealous because Zap likes me now and not you. But don't worry, this isn't a competition.
Back at Planet Express, Leela paces around while explaining to the crew that Zap is only dating her mom to make her jealous. She is definitely coping right now. Speaking of coping, Morris takes a more ethical route of dealing with the divorce by surfing the sewers with Fry and Bender. All the while, Leela spies on her mother, who takes the less ethical route by getting railed by Zap. They get into a heated argument about the freaky situation until Munda leaves the apartment for good.
I don't think I can live here anymore. I'll be back for my things at 8 sharp.
After rejoining the sewer surfers, Leela tries to convince her father that he should be upset with his ex-wife, so she comes up with a plan.
Zap's using Mom to get to me, and I'm gonna prove it!
She proceeds to call Zap and invites him to dinner to celebrate his genuine love for her. Zap arrives at the apartment and knocks on the door right before we see Leela's plan in action.
Mommy's not home, big boy.
Struggling to seduce Zap with her dancing skills, she forces herself onto him until he explains his love for her mother in the kindest words I've ever heard come out of his mouth.
Her laugh, her maturity, the cold, lifeless touch of her tentacle on my body.
Just in time, Munda's at the front door who heard everything, leading to Zap proposing to her. Leela tries to stop her mom, but she's too late.
There's no need to call me names, Leela. Just call me Daddy.
Fast forward to the wedding day, where Leela comes to the realization that her mother and Zap are truly in love. As they say their vows to each other, they're interrupted by the Karkarons who are supposed to meet Zap for the peace treaty. The almost married couple runs off to deal with business, where Munda notices Zap is trying to secretly declare war on the aliens.
I come from the sewer, but that is low. I'm not going to translate your lies.
Munda calls off the wedding after seeing the true nature of Zap, causing the Karkarons to attack their ship. On the way back to the party, Morris appears out of nowhere to get his wife back after realizing he made a mistake. The whole ship along with the crew are in danger until Munda tells Zap he needs to make peace with the aliens to end the war.
Okay.
And just like that, they sign a peace treaty while the crew celebrates as the couple is back together. Just like how all the couples got back together after exploring each other's bodies, including Fry. The crew gathers around to talk about how their building will be destroyed if they don't pay off their debt.
We just need $11 million. And boned.
Brainstorming ideas together, Bender comes up with the brilliant idea to start a calendar with pictures of the girls of Planet Express. Hermes tells the girls to come topless the next day to start the shoot, but Leela disagrees, only for Hermes to pull out their contract that states they have to oblige to pose clothless if asked. After gathering a couple more women for the shoot, we get a behind the scenes montage of Bender's camera work in action. I'm not sure how this was aired, but I'm sure some of you aren't mad about it. With not enough models to make a full 12-month calendar, they resort to a different plan which involves turning their ship into an airline for passengers.
Ladies, here are your demeaning, skimpy stewardess outfits.
The crew prepares to take off into outer space while Bender gets freaky with the in-flight fridge. At the same time, Leela finds Fry and Hermes sleeping away as the ship loses fuel, leading to them crashing straight onto a different planet. When arguing over who should be in charge, a rock-like alien appears who notices their arguments could be solved with a series of gender-related tests to see which gender is the best. A couple of confusing yet unique experiments later, the Rock gives them a final test of reaching shelter at the Cave of Harmony before the sun rises. But to get there, they have to travel across the dangerous alkali plains. The groups that are separated by their gender set out on the mission to find shelter, but ultimately find themselves failing, getting closer and closer to death. Just before being melted, both groups are teleported into the shelter as the Rock concludes that both genders are incompetent of being the best because the true test was to work together. Given the evidence, the Rock changes their gender to, well, none.
Wait, why didn't that hurt?
They all point out their missing, parts right before the Rock disappears into thin air, leaving the crew to work on the ship to escape the planet. And at night, Fry gets a little closer with his coworkers.
Well, good night.
Cutting to Hermes and La Barbara, they meet with the Rock and ask to get their parts back because all of the things they're missing out on with each other. So after a little bit of thought, the Rock teleports back to the crew and reverts them back to their genders. Sort of.
Now I got a whatchamacallit instead of a kajigger, you stupid whatchamacallit.
The Rock tries to fix the problem until Zap shows up and beams him out of existence due to the distress call he received earlier.
Well, hello from the neck down.
I am quite uncomfortable right now, but I kinda like it. Back on Earth, the crew is still facing money problems, so Amy comes up with a plan quite similar to Bender's from the beginning of the episode. Actually, exactly the same. Fry, Bender, Farnsworth, and even the janitor get in on the action. The photo shoot goes so well that they end up selling enough calendars to pay off their debt. I mean, really, that's a money shot if I've ever seen one. After paying off their debt, another magical rock alien lands inside their base, teleporting and reverting everyone back to their original genders.
My girls are back!
Wow! Yay!
Everyone is back to normal, well, except the janitor. Speaking of acting like a totally normal human being, Zap comes up with the mastermind plan in hopes of getting very close to Leela. Zap and Kif are called in by the president, showing them a death sphere heading towards Earth. Wait a minute, that's not a real planet. Anyway, the president calls in help from Professor Farnsworth, who built an invisible spaceship, revealing it to the crew while explaining how whoever pilots it will be undetectable through the sphere's vulnerable opening. Leela volunteers to pilot the ship, and somehow Zap convinces her that he's going along too. As they snuggle into the tiny cockpit, Fry gives Leela some trail mix for her journey ahead, in return, giving him a goodbye kiss on the cheek before flying away towards the sphere.
Does anybody else feel aroused and jealous and worried?
Some things just don't need to be said out loud. Leela and Zap approach the sphere, flying closer and closer to the surface. From afar, Farnsworth notices how familiar the call letters are, pushing him to solve the problem on his own. At the same time, Leela and Zap get targeted by the goo gun.
I hope this is the control stick!
Me too, Leela, me too. They manage to escape, destroying their aircraft in the process and landing on what seems to be an unknown planet. As Leela wakes up from the crash, she is pinned under a tree. Zap tries to lift it off her, but fails, causing Leela to overheat. After acting gentlemanlike about Leela's privacy, Zap continues on by himself to find supplies in the wilderness to survive. Back at Planet Express, the rest of the crew give up from not hearing back from Leela, accepting the fact that the world is ending.
Who's up for an orgy?
I mean, come on guys, it's Amy we're talking about. Farnsworth runs in with great news about where the sphere came from, explaining to the crew that it's a combination of a military satellite and a sensory satellite for blocking indecent shows online. Thankfully that's not a real thing, or else this video would not exist. The professor shows them a simulation of the collision and the reason why it's targeting certain planets with specific names like Pupiter, concluding that the death sphere is censoring the planets by destroying them.
So the orgy's off?
Switching back to Zap, who brings a mix of nuts for Leela while she hallucinates about a talking snake from being dehydrated. Since she can't move, he continues to gather materials, leading to her catching some feelings for him. As the crew searches for a solution, they land on a remote island to show the death sphere that there's still innocents left on the planet, but Bender has other ideas in mind. As we watch the death sphere completely destroy what seems to be Earth, Zap comforts Leela, and after a quick makeout sesh, Leela realizes the nuts she ate earlier taste exactly like the ones Fry gave her before she left in the spaceship, forcing Zap to tell her the truth, being that he made up all the scenarios, from dropping the log on her after finding the ship to faking the destruction of Earth, which is honestly impressive considering we're talking about Zap here. All of a sudden, the crew finds them both while exploring the island. They gather around to head back home until the floating death sphere finally arrives on Earth, telling them humanity will be saved only if Adam and Eve do the deed, since he's been watching their poetic love story unfold from afar. And to end the episode and save the world, they consummate immediately inside a bush right next to the crew, and for all to see. These episodes are by far some of the freakiest I've seen, but nothing compares to the episodes covered in this video right here. Click on the screen to watch next, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Futurama videos just like this one. Bye bye.